Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. Today, we're going to be talking about some resources and things to think about when you are making plans, hopefully with your trainer and with your veterinarian to get your fearful dog to the vet with what is hopefully minimum stress. All right, so here's what we're talking about today. Um, when you are trying to plan vet visits, who to talk to make plans, and what kind of plans you might need. Some gear that we find helpful when we're getting our fearful dogs, ready to go to the vet. And then just a little snippet of the prep we did for Pancake's first vet visit, which was back when I really couldn't touch him at all. All right. So I just wanted to quickly say a couple things about choosing a vet. Who your vet is and how they practice can really make or break your experience with getting your fearful pet both seen by the vet and also the planning that goes into this ahead of time. If you haven't already, please check out fearfreepets.com. There's a directory there where you can search for individual veterinarians or technicians and also clinics that are certified. And any clinics or vets who are on their directory, the Fear Free directory, have at least done, some continuing education in behavior and specifically on how to make vet visits less stressful. So a lot of times fear-free clinics are a lot more accommodating for fearful pets. Other things to think about when you're choosing your veterinarian is, of course, how far away they are, especially if you have a dog who's not comfortable in the car. What their clinic setup is. So, do you have to walk right into a busy lobby that has dogs and cats in it? Or are there separate entrances that a fearful dog could come in through, like a back or side entrance? And also, you'll get a feel for this when you first talk to a new veterinarian and explain sort of about your pet and what you would like during your first visit. But how flexible are they and willing to listen to you when you ask for accommodations that will help your dog have a better experience? Like, can you come in with them a little early, or can you come in and do little happy visits if you have a dog who's able to do that, not too fearful to just come in, be in the vet clinic without any procedures, eat some awesome treats and go home. Um, there are a lot of things that you can do to make a vet visit less stressful for your dog, but a lot of it requires some accommodation on the part of the vet staff. So this is stuff to talk with them about to get a feel for before switching to a new vet. Okay, so you probably are familiar. Anytime you've got a sensitive dog, pretty much everything you do with them involves some planning, planning ahead. You can't just jump into a new situation and expect it to go okay. So you've got your fearful dog. You need to get them into maybe for their annual exam or a dental or whatever. You've got some resources available to you. The first thing is to talk with your veterinarian. Especially with a fear-free vet, they should have an idea of what pre-visit medications might help your dog have a less stressful experience. That's stuff that you would give to your pet at home, sometimes even starting like the day before the visit, so that they're kind of sedated and calmer than they would be otherwise when you bring them in. There might be other scheduling considerations that your vet can help you with. Like maybe there's a certain time of day that's usually pretty quiet at the clinic, and you can make an appointment during that time. Or for instance, with my dogs, we only see one veterinarian at the clinic who is a fear-free vet, and we try to go when there's a particular technician who's very good on the schedule. So talk with them before, things are urgent if possible, to try to figure this stuff out. And then the other piece of the puzzle is your trainer. So there are lots of pieces to the day of events of a vet visit. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And many things can be made easier if you're able to do some training and planning well ahead of time. So how are you going to get your dog to the clinic? Are they going to be in a crate or, loose in the car or some kind of carrier? And if so, do they need training to get into that carrier? Do they need training to be comfortable in the car? What kind of handling um, will they need to be comfortable with at the clinic for their exam? And there's a lot of standard handling holds and parts of the body that need to be looked at by a vet. And this is something that your trainer can help you plan for ahead of time. And does your dog need to be muzzle trained? So if you have a dog who may be a bite risk, or at least you suspect they may respond aggressively to strangers handling them at the clinic, it's a lot less stressful for your dog to come into the clinic already muzzled by you, following training that helped them to be comfortable in the muzzle, rather than have a muzzle slapped on quickly during the visit at the clinic when the staff start to feel like they're at risk of a bite. So a lot of this stuff can take some time. And I know sometimes you find yourself in a situation where, it would have been nice to do this beforehand, but we need to go to the vet now. But I did want to bring this up for those of you who aren't in need of a vet visit in the immediate future. Do talk with your trainer and your veterinarian so that you can be as prepared as possible to make it sort of minimize that stress. Because no matter what, with a fearful dog, a lot of times a vet visit isn't going to be fun. But there are a lot of things you can do to make it more tolerable for everyone. All right, what kind of stuff is helpful to have when you're getting your fearful pup to the vet? It's really nice. I know it's not always feasible depending on the size of your car, and your dog, but it is nice to have some kind of secure transport crate or carrier that you can have your dog in the car. I like a large towel or blanket to cover the crate in the car. Some dogs do better with that and some don't. So, talk to your trainer about this. And also, if you have a dog who's going to be carried it's a smaller dog who can be carried in the crate into the clinic, a lot of times having that crate covered can reduce either their, shaking and feeling a parent feeling afraid, or sort of barking at stuff. You also want to make sure your dog is secure. If you've got a fearful dog who could be a flight risk, it's not a bad idea to have them in a secure harness or a martingale collar, which is one that is limited slip, so that if they try to back out of it, they can't get away. If they are going to be out, especially with bigger dogs, they're going to be out, on walking on leash to and from the clinic and maybe in the clinic. You want them to minimize the risk that they'll get loose. Especially if your dog's going to be in for the day for a procedure, a lot of clinics will let you bring in one of their favorite blankies or a dog bed to be in the kennel with them before and after a procedure. Anything that you can do at home, and this will be something your vet can tell you, anything you can do at home before you go to the clinic will, that'll be one less thing that the vet has to try to do with your dog at the clinic when they're more scared. So one thing you can do at home is weighing your dog if your vet is going to need a weight, and they usually do if they're going to be, giving them sedatives or any kind of medication. So if you have an at-home scale, either an actual scale you can put your dog on, or even just, your regular bathroom scale that you can weigh yourself and then weigh your dog, can save them having to weigh the dog at the clinic. Having really high value treats to give to the vet as your dog goes into the clinic, or you can have them if you happen to be allowed to go into the clinic. COVID has kind of turned this on its head a bit, but having some really high value treats is a good idea if there's any prayer that your dog will accept food during an exam or in the clinic. It can be a good distraction. If you're lucky, you might get some able to do some training or some sort of conditioning where you're associating the clinic with something good. I put in a treat tube here because if I'm giving treats to the clinic staff to give to a fearful dog and I can't be there to do the feeding, with a treat tube, at least their fingers are going to be separated from the dog's mouth by some distance, which is probably going to be a little safer than them trying to hand feed a fearful dog. And then a basket muzzle. Basket muzzles are made for sort of longer duration wear, unlike those groomer muzzles, the nylon ones that kind of just wrap around the dog's muzzle. Um, a lot of times, grooming muzzles are used in vet clinics just for short procedures like a vaccine or something. But if your dog does need to be muzzled, having a basket muzzle that allows them to pant normally and take treats will be much nicer for them. But remember, you do have to spend a reasonable amount of time training this ahead of time so your dog is comfortable wearing it before they end up at the vet. All right, so let's take a look at Pancake's first vet visit. This was a tough one. At this stage, he was still pretty fearful of me handling him. So we knew it was going to be rough, but he absolutely had to go in. So I talked with his veterinarian. His veterinarian had come to see him in our home previously so that she could prescribe medication. So she was able to work with us to develop a plan for pre-visit medication, sort of sedatives and anti-anxiety meds to help him chill out a little bit as we headed into the vet. I did a little bit of get into crate training, which was training I could do that didn't require me to handle Pancake, which was good since, like I said, at this stage, he didn't really like me touching him. But I needed him to get into a crate or carrier so I could transport him safely. We did the weigh-in at home. And then I texted that information to my vet before we left home so that whoever was drawing up the pre-anesthetic medications for him knew how to get the dosage right. And then our vet worked with us really this was all her since I have no expertise in this area, but she developed a plan to give him some a sedative. I think it was an injection that might be a little slow acting, but something she could give him right away with minimal handling when he got to the clinic that would sedate him further than the oral meds that we had given at home before, moving on to more invasive handling. And he had to be put under for some procedures. So just I just took a couple clips of that day prepping to get him to the vet. I think it's this one. Okay, yeah. So here is Pancake's crate. And it has a bunch of his favorite blankies. And I had his heated bed in there unplugged so that when he came home and if he didn't want to move from there, I could plug his heated bed in so it would be cozier. And we've got my bathroom scale. And I just weighed myself holding the crate. So I knew what I needed to subtract once I weighed him plus the crate. Then I smeared peanut butter in the back of his crate. We'd been practicing him going in and out to collect treats. I wanted to make sure I had something pretty irresistible in there so that I wasn't waiting a long time for him to get into the crate because, we had to get to the clinic. And this would keep him occupied a little while. And then I just moved away from the crate, waited till he moved in there, and then tried to quietly close the door. And then this is not the most graceful pickup you've ever seen, but I then picked him up and weighed us again, and then just subtracted the first weigh in so that I had a approximate weight for him. And then I texted that to our vet so that she could get the meds ready ahead of time. And then covered him with a blanket prior to carrying him out to the car. This was right in the middle of COVID, so I couldn't go into the clinic. But when we arrived, here's our wonderful vet, Dr. Rachel. She came out to the car and got Pancake in his covered crate and carried him in that way. All right. So I hope these general guidelines were helpful. It's really such an individual thing what will help your dog have a good experience at the vet. But I wanted to point out general stuff to think about, what gear you might need, what kind of planning you might want to do with your vet and your trainer. And then just show that, it is possible. It's not always completely pleasant, but it is possible to get these guys to the vet and seen um, in a way that's not sort of totally horrible. I mean, I certainly could have manhandled Pancake, into a crate and not medicated him um, and sort of forced him through the process because he's a small dog. But this was so much better. It was still stressful for him, but he was medicated the entire time. And once he got to the vet, it wasn't too long before he was knocked out, and then they could do what they needed to do. And then I could come pick him up before he was awake. All right. So if you are looking for more free stuff, here are all of our things. Our blog, Instagram, YouTube channel, Facebook page, and group. If you have any questions about sort of the process you're thinking about right now, getting your dog ready for the vet, feel free to post questions or comments underneath this video wherever you're watching it, and I will answer them as I see them. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. This is such a stressful thing for those of us with fearful dogs. You feel anxious that they're going to have a horrible experience, and there's only so much you can do. Like I said, with Pancake, we started training. We've been training for a long time, but when you have to go to the vet, you have to go to the vet, whether or not you've completed all this handling training or crate training or whatever. So, but there's so much you can do with just planning, logistics, and medication. All right, folks, have a lovely week. I will see you next Monday. If you have today off, I hope you're doing something nice for yourself and just taking it easy. Cuddle your pups and let me know how you like this and whether, next time you go to the vet, did you have a good experience with your fearful dog? Were you able to make plans with your trainer and your vet to minimize stress and, just try to keep things a little better for these pups that are so sensitive. Even for a dog who's not fearful, a vet visit is often, not their favorite thing. So these dogs that don't like to even be handled by, their family, you can imagine this can be really tough on them. All right, everyone, I will see you next week.